Well, good morning, everybody. It's a winter wonderland outside. This is Friday, the 10th day of January, and I thought you just came inside. This cat cannot make up his mind. Both of our cats are really struggling. They want in, they want out, they want in, they want out. You can see the frost on his face right here. Show everybody that you want back out. Go on now. You want back out in the snow. And there he goes, out there in the snow. But you'll be back. I know you will. You'll be back. So it's been coming down for a couple of hours now. And see, look at the snow on his black coat. Look at that. You can actually see the flakes coming down on him. Okay, so you want back in now. He can't see. Our cats are really struggling. Okay, come back in. Come on. They are really struggling. They just don't know what they want. They're so used to being outside. Outside the
That's
front
what's
window.
happening outside our house right there.
Front windows.
Our front windows. That's just the same thing as it's out the back windows. I wonder how that happened.
Well, it's just a different view. All right, Stephen. So now that we've established,
Tomer. Somebody gonna step on you.
now that we have established the fact that the weather is not that great, how does that song go?
Look at that. Bumbles is bubbling my stuff around there.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful. All right, so on this frightful weather day, Stephen.
Here we go with all the questions and the camera down to my nose.
I'm not up in your face.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, he is.
So, now this morning you had some questions for Tag Truck Center and you had some questions for Fleet Pride. And you were on the phone this morning with some concerns about the drive line. So let's talk about those.
Had nothing to do with the drive line. It was the yoke. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, so when I put the yoke, after I got to messing around burning all the stuff from the ice, the tree limbs, cutting it up and burning it, and Ricky missed it because I took the heater that I keep the truck warm with while I'm working out there, which gave me carbon monoxide, which took me 2 days to get over. But anyway, I took it over there and put it up against the pile after I cut it and piled it up because oil and diesel would not take off because the heat would just melt the ice and then put it back out.
So I missed a big show.
So anyway, I took the turbo heater over there and stuck it right up in there, let it run for a little while, and then restarted the fire, and off she went. So all that stuff was burnt up. But anyway, after I got through doing all that, I went over and because I'd worked up a good sweat and it was nice and warm, so went and got my knocked that seal out of the front diff, and not that there was anything wrong with it, but figure while I was there, might as well put a new seal in it because it would really suck to put in all that just to find out your seal's gonna leak. So anyway, so I put a new seal in it and I put the yoke up there, and the yoke didn't want to go to the bottom, so I pulled the yoke back out. And there was the seal, and then it has an insert seal that spins around in there. And so I pulled it out and then set the yoke down in there, and it went to the bottom. So I put the seal back up in it, or the center, that's a two-piece. I put the center one back up in there and put the yoke in it, and I tapped it down a little bit, and then I pulled it out, and the seal was tight up against the yoke, and it didn't want to go forward, backwards, or nothing. So I was like, it didn't come apart like that. I don't get it. I don't understand. Well, when I took the old one out, the center piece of the seal stayed in the diff. So anyway, so I went ahead and put the nut on it and ran it on down and tightened it up, and this morning I was like, well, it just didn't. In my head I couldn't figure out how come when I took the old yoke off that center piece of that seal didn't come out with the yoke like it is now. How it just stuck to that yoke. So I called up Freightliner. Freightliner said, they didn't know. They didn't think that there would be anything wrong with it. They said, just go with it. If it leaks, then you can worry about it. So I said, you really don't know, huh? Nope. So I called up the guy down there in Nashville that built it. Well, they canceled work down there because of the snow in Nashville. Imagine that. That should be fun. But anyway, and so the phone went over to Bowling Green, and they answered, and the guy over there ran down all the parts with me, and we talked back and forth about the parts and which parts they were, and come to find out, he said, "Oh, yeah, you should be good." So yeah, he said everything's correct. You got the correct stuff, so that's the way it should be. I said, yeah, okay. Well, I don't, if my problem is I don't understand how come it didn't come apart like that. I mean, if it came apart like that and the seal came out with it, I'd be, oh, okay. Well, then when it goes back together, I would expect that. But since it left that center piece back in it, then I would expect it to have been loose when I put the yoke in. But the yoke was wore out. So the only thing I can figure is the yoke was just wore out. But they say that it should be fine. So as soon as I get brave enough to go lay out in the wet snow, I'll go out there and put the back drive line in. And then the clutch needs to be adjusted. And then there's a line that comes off of the throwout bearing. I want to remove the zert and put that line in there so I can close it up because the plate's not on it. So I'm going to have to make a plate because I like to keep mine clean. And then put the power cable on and grease everything up while I'm there. And then I should be completely done with everything underneath the truck. And then I could just focus on the rear end and put the new cans on and then drop when I get the cans on. And I could drop those two bushings down and see if I can't create a tool. Try to get it out. It's going to be fun. I know it is without that bushing tool. So I don't even know if I can do it. I'll give it all the effort I can. If I can't do it, then I guess I'll have to cut the U-bolts off and take the walking beams down and get them pressed in and pressed out and pressed in. So I don't want to do that, but if that's what it comes down to. But anyway, this show is going a lot slower than I imagined it would go. I wanted to be done by now. It was a month yesterday, or it's a month today, since I made up my mind to do it. And so here it is a month later, and it's not done. And I got a pile of work to do, and I'm just gonna have to man up and get out there and deal with the ice and snow because it ain't gonna get any better.
Well, I'm confused about something. I thought that the yokes were brand new.
The yokes are brand new.
But then I just heard you say that the yoke was worn out. I just heard you say that.
The confusing part was when I took the old yoke off, it left the seal in the differential, the center piece. It left it in there. It's a two-piece seal. It has a seal that you press down in there, and then it has a seal that pushes down in there and goes around and around. Well, when I pulled the yoke out, it left that center piece in there. Well, with the new seal, with the new yoke, and you put it down in there, the piece that spun around that didn't come out with the old wore out yoke gets pressed up onto the yoke. and it's stuck on the yoke. It will not move. It won't go forward or whatever. So I just ran it down on there, confused why it didn't come apart like that, because the old yoke was wore out. It was the only reason why I can figure out why that it didn't come out instead of being stuck on the yoke like it is now. So that's the only difference that there is that this yoke is a new yoke. The old yoke was a wore out yoke, and that's probably the only reason why the seal didn't come out on the old yoke, because it was wore out. And the reason why this seal is sticking onto the new yoke is because it's a new yoke and a new seal. So that's the only difference that I can figure out, and that's the only thing that I can get from them, from both companies that I talked to. They said, yeah, you know, it sounds like you're all in the good. And so the only difference I could think of is that the old wore out yoke didn't bring the centerpiece of the yoke out because it was wore out.
Let's talk about the carbon monoxide issue. I know that has set you back this week. Terribly set you back.
Well, I mean, it just took me 2 days to recover from it.
Yeah, but that's 2 days that you could have been outside.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
So, how do you, what makes you think that you had some carbon monoxide
I guess, you
problems?
know, I'm supposed to explain to you why I was carbon monoxide poisoned, and how did I know? Because I saw Dog Spot running by. Woo! Well, there goes Dog Spot! And they're like, wow! How you know it was Dog Spot? Well, it could have been U Spot, or B Spot, or A Spot. Who cares? It was spots, white spots in my eyeballs. So much so that I could hardly see around the white spots. They were so bright. So, and I had a freaking headache, and I didn't feel good, and I've had carbon monoxide poisoning before. And so I can relate to what carbon monoxide poisoning was. So my problem is that I just get to this, I guess I'm kind of thick sometimes, and I think that I'm just Superman, and I can lay in carbon monoxide and not have to worry about it. But it caught up with me, and so I had to take a couple of days off and recuperate. And so, I mean, when it's 7 degrees in the wind, and the wind is just blazing up underneath that thing, and that metal is ice freaking cold, I got to try to stay warm some way or another to get the work done, And so I run the heater, try to stay warm, but it comes out of consequences, and the consequences is that that's pure carbon dioxide blowing at me, and so, I just have to deal with it. I have more work to do, and so,
So because you had the enclosed tent, tarps rather, hanging down over the truck, and you had the diesel heater, the big diesel heater up underneath the truck blowing, and you were enclosed in tarps, you were nice and warm and snug up underneath the truck.
I don't know about all that. Even though the heater was blowing, whenever I was breathing, you could still see the steam in the air, so it was still pretty cold under there.
This is
Even
my
with the heater
conditions
going.
right here.
And when it's not doing this, it's 6 degrees in the wind. This is probably the warmest day we've had in a while. But with the warmth that we get piles of snow. And everybody knows about snow, even though it's not as cold as a cold day. But if you get wet, then that wet gets in there, it's all over with, then it gets cold. So you're all right in the snow, just don't get wet. But you're going to get wet because your body's warm and it's going to melt the snow. So you can only handle so much. So with all that being said, and me not trying to get frustrated, repeating myself over 1,000 trillion billion times, yeah. And then the cats are going crazy because they can't make up their mind to want to get in or out.
I'm Big Buddy.
And I'm Bumbles.
And we are
Big
Belly
Belly Bumbles.